Good evening, everyone. This is a call to order for the Bridgeport Board of Education meeting on Monday, May 22nd, 2023 at 6:30 p.m. We are currently at Bridgeport Regional Aquaculture Science and Technology Center. I have never read that out loud, so I always just call it Aqua, but we are here. At this moment, we'll ask everyone to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you all. Mr. Secretary, roll call.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, everyone. So we're Allen, Ms. Christine Baptiste Ferris, Albert Benehan Grajale, present. Bobby Brown, Ms. Akisha Casimir, Mr. David Gellin, Mr. Michael Macaron,
Present.
Mr. Joseph Collevitt,
Present.
and Mr. Robert Trevor.
Thank you, Mrs. Secretary. I don't see any student representative. Oh, I do. Student representatives, please say your name and the school you attend, and then feel free to start your report. Isabella?
Sorry, give me 1 second.
Sure.
Ella, and I'm here representing Biotech. Hosted a PTSO sponsored screen night that was held on May 4th with students and parents participating in board games and a volleyball game. No phones were allowed. A blood drive.
Yeah, Isabella, you are you driving? We're kind of getting you in and out.
Yeah, I'm in a car, but I'm not driving.
Oh. Okay, so you can try again and see if it comes through clear.
Oh, okay, I'll leave and I'll come back.
Okay. Thank you. Other than that, I don't.
I'm sorry about that.
Jaleel?
Oh yeah. I'm from Warren Harding High School, and my name is Jaleel Stewart. Harding has many upcoming end of the year event activities. On May 31st, we're holding our law and finance fair. Many professionals in different organizations on the law, community service, and business fields will meet with our students at the gym. Several students from our law and business classes will be presenting their capstone projects and our debate team will be holding speed debates for all the students to take part in. On June 1st, we're also holding a medical career fair. The Medical Magnet program will be hosting different medical professionals and community health organizations that will have partnerships with. Students from the CNA and other medical classes will be presenting their capstone projects as well as educating students on the opportunities within medical programs at Harding. On June 2nd, in the partnership with the Student Council, Harding will hold our annual field day and for our students and facility to bond and celebrate another successful school year. We'll be also holding a special celebration of Mr. Brown, who will be leaving as our principal at the end of the year. We want to say thank you to Mr. Brown for all the hard work and dedication to our school for the last 9 years. We are going to miss him, and the juniors demand that he comes back to attend graduation year. Finally, on June 8th and 9th, we will celebrate our seniors with a special outdoor senior celebration and final senior breakfast. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I see Julia.
Yes, hello, how are you? My name is Julia Estrella, and I'm the student representative for Bridgeport Military Academy. So what's new is that seniors had their prom last Friday. The students were dressed to the nines and had a great time celebrating with their classmates. And our annual fun day is planned for this Friday with a rock climbing hall, different sports games, and a dunk tank. The NJROTC is having its change of command ceremony this Thursday Current students in leadership positions will pass their role into new cadets. And all cadets are getting ready for finals and counting down to summer vacation. And our military ball is going to be June 9th. This is the second annual military ball. And this week, if I'm not mistaken, seniors should be presenting their capstone as well. And I also believe that this is going to be my last meeting, if I'm not mistaken. So it was a pleasure being able to speak with everyone, and I hope that everyone has a great evening. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you for serving on the board. At this moment, there are no other student representatives. And if one does come back, we will make sure that they're able to present. There is no, oh, there's one more?
Yeah, sorry. I'm also a representative.
Okay, go right ahead.
Okay, so my name is Brenda Ranza. I'm representing Bassick High School. I'd like to start with news in soccer. Senior Joao Miranda earned a full-ride soccer scholarship to the University of Bridgeport. Another outstanding member of the soccer team, Senior Malik Coram, will be attending Northumbria College in Britain. Congratulations, Joao and Malik. We wish you all the best in your college and sports careers. We also have news on recent trips. 30 of our juniors attended the Housatonic Community College Careers in Manufacturing Exposition on May 4, with a projected 2 million vacant manufacturing jobs by 2028, as reported in recent news. Our school is encouraging students with an interest in the field to prepare to fill some of those future vacancies. On April 21st, Cedar students went to Fairfield University to see their production of the play Eurydice, a retelling of the Orpheus myth from Eurydice's point of view. After the play, students were able to participate in a Q&A session with the actors and director. They discussed the rehearsal process, finding their character, how they deal with stage fright, and more. On April 28th, Cedar music and visual arts students went to Westport Country Playhouse's production of the musical Ain't Misbehaving, a review of music set in Harlem Renaissance. There was a live jazz band, and the directors reimagined musical to simulate different exhibits in a museum, so students were able to see all the art forms combined in one production. Afterwards, students participated in Q&A with the cast and crew, discussing their journey to Cedar, favorite moments in their career, how they stay in shape, stay healthy, and more. Finally, we have some events on May 5th. On May 5th, Bassick PTSO held a celebration of Cinco de Mayo with the goal of educating attendees about this important day in Mexican history. Participants enjoyed an evening filled with great cultural entertainment, food, books, gifts, and much more. And finally, various students attended prom on May 12th, which took place at Anthony's Ocean View in New Haven. Thank you.
Thank you. Isabella, are you ready to come back?
Yes. I'm
Okay, go
sorry
right
about
ahead.
earlier, but yes.
No, you're fine.
So, hi, good evening. My name is Isabella, and I'm here representing Fairchild Wheeler Biotech. In the past few weeks, we hosted a PTSO-sponsored screen-free night that was held on May 4th with students and parents participating in board games and a volleyball game. No phones were allowed. We also had a blood drive that was held on May 5th with over 40 participants. We had our annual prom on May 11th for our seniors and our juniors. And lastly, schedules were posted for final exams, so students and teachers are getting ready for finals and projects. And that's all I have for you today. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I believe that is all of our student representatives. If I missed anyone, please let me know. All right. The next item is public comment. There is no one here for public comment. No one left their names for sign up. So we'll move on to approval of meeting minutes. The first one is special meeting for May 4th, 2023. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve the special meeting minutes dated May 4th, 2023.
Is there a second? Second by Mr. Traber. Moved by Mrs. Sokolovich, second by Mr. Traber. Are there any questions, corrections, anything? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. The next item is regular meeting, May 8th, 2023. Is there a motion to approve?
Madam Chair, before you approve, it's possible they can be tabled that minute because I didn't have the chance. I'll be too busy to translate because I believe that's the day we're supposed to translate people who are talking in Spanish. So I don't know if it's possible with the permission of you and then the whole board. We can table or we can approve it and then I send it to you all to translate.
It's up to the board.
You know, I spoke with Mr. John, he told me it's coming from you guys. So we can table the until tonight. Today, I can translate what happened, that thing in Spanish.
Okay, I'll make the motion.
Okay.
Motion to postpone the regular meeting minutes dated May 8th, 2023 till the next regular meeting.
There's a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Macaron. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
There was supposed to be discussion.
Okay, any discussion about the meeting, potentially tabling the meeting minutes?
I have a question.
Mhm.
The meeting minutes are transcribed just like our ordinary minutes, right? So it was the English translation. We're not doing a verbatim line by line of what's being said. It's normally our minutes are a summary. So what is it in the summary that needs to be translated?
Mr. Benahan?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Where some word was not translated correctly. It was some word they was not supposed to, they not say it correctly. So that's why I didn't have the chance because I was busy about meetings and my doctor's appointment, that I want to be clear, the message of the Spanish people, give it to us. So it's word they was not saying and they need to be corrected for that. So I want to be sure for the record, it's actually the message for all these parents for adult education, why they didn't worry about it. That I went to that meeting.
But none of our meeting minutes are verbatim. Like it states question to Mr. Denton response.
It was not translated, like I said, word in Spanish the way it's supposed to be. They didn't ever say the way it's supposed to be, and when I did my minutes, when I translate, I will usually see the difference.
Maybe we should just use our translation services then, because
They're supposed to have a translation service that day. I really sent it to Ms. Perry 2 days in advance, I believe. Something happened, it was a good, like a communication that day. But for the next time, we will be ready for that time, for something like that happening.
Mr. Sokolovich?
Yeah, I'll defer to like one of the only people on the board with the skills to speak two languages. Maybe something may have been missed.
Any other questions concerning the translation of the meeting minutes? All right.
So it's going to be verbatim translated from everything said from the YouTube recording.
Yeah, I will check the YouTube, exactly. I'm gonna translate, and I will send it to Ms. Perry. Ms. Perry, they can send it to the bilingual department to see the correct, the word exactly they're supposed to be out and telling, to the community. And from there, and then Mr. John, they will put it in a minute the way it's supposed to be. I just want the message exactly what this parent Spanish, the community, everybody know what they say.
Any further discussion? So there's a motion to table. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
One opposed. Ms. Baptiste Perez? Abstentions? Hearing none, we will be tabling the meeting minutes
Thank you, Madam
for
Chair.
May 8th.
Thank you.
The next one is the chairman's report. I would like to share that the board has met with the search firm. The search firm has gotten us down from 19 candidates, and we ended up with 5 candidates. From the 5 candidates, we have moved forward with the 4, and recently one has dropped out. So now we have 3 candidates that will be moving forward for the semifinals. As more information around this and we get closer to finalizing everything, we will announce further instructions or further details, but just want to give everyone an update on where we are with this superintendent search. All right. Now we'll move to committee reports and referrals. The first one is Education, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, chaired by Mr. Sokolovich.
Yes, the EI committee did not meet in the interim. As we're getting close to the end of the school year with the superintendent search and various other committees and graduations coming up, we're having a little trouble finding a date, so we may be meeting in August if I can't find another date.
Are there any referrals for this committee? All right. The next committee is Finance, chaired by Mrs. Sokolovich.
Yes, the Finance Committee met on May 11th. We spoke to our city representatives about having a lobbyist. The city seemed pretty much dead set against it, but in their arguments, they convinced us even more that we do, in fact, need a lobbyist of our own. In discussions with Grace City Schools, I believe I forwarded you all the emails that actually most big city districts use their own lobbyists because oftentimes there's a conflict between what the city wants and what the boards of education want. So we've got an RFP on the agenda to be approved today, coming up on the agenda. And also we discussed the lighthouse and we found that the lighthouse was actually benefiting to the tune of approximately $500,000 in rental fee waivers. And we're going to be looking at that on governance.
Are there any referrals to Finance? All right. The next one is Governance.
This governance committee also met. We reviewed the school building policy, which I just referred to, which includes certain community groups get waivers, of which Lighthouse is one of them. They currently compensate us at an amount of $75,000, and through prior discussions, they were complaining about being charged too much for toilet paper. So it's definitely time to revisit what Lighthouse pays in rent and other people for free. So it's under consideration at the next meeting. We should have representatives from Lighthouse come to us to explain why we should subsidize a city program where the city gets twice as much funding as our nonprofit organization. And also we discussed the student discipline policy and the new cyberbullying policy, which will be further discussed at the next meeting and fleshed out. And got an update on the school moving policy from the small work group. And we're going to be continuing work on that until we can put together something comprehensive to present to the board. And we finally discussed the whole school agreement for Achievement First School, which is the agreement with the charter management organization. Apparently, this is a state statute, which we were supposed to always be following, but this is the first time in my 6 years that I've ever seen this come before the board, and it's approximately a $1.4 million contract between Achievement First Incorporated and Achievement First School. So, and that's something we just get to comment on as a board, and we should have probably had commented on this. We got 6 charter schools. I don't know if they all got charter management organizations, but this is the first I've seen it in 6 years. So hopefully we'll be seeing more going forward. And I believe Superintendent Perrin forwarded it to the state. And I don't know if we received any information back, but the last time I checked, nothing back yet.
All right. Are there any referrals for this committee?
No, we've heard, but are we going to meet again?
Yes, I apologize. And I missed that on the last one too. June, finance will be June 14th and governance is June 15th.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. The next committee is Health, Safety, and Facilities, chaired by Ms. Baptiste Perez.
Health, Safety, and Facilities Committee met on May 9th here at Aquaculture School. There was a presentation of an award of an HVAC grant we recently received. There was discussion and possible action regarding how to move forward with the remaining ARP ESSER funds. And that should have been on the agenda for today, so I'll make sure it's available for the next meeting. There was building reports for Hall and Edison School. I'll reiterate the message that is sent there. Those school building facilities itself are extremely old, has not been updated since World War II. We had a brief discussion looking at the capacity versus enrollment for that school, and there were strong suggestions that if budget cuts had to be made, it would be those 2 particular facilities would be of interest if buildings were to be closed. We also had a discussion further discussion regarding a clear and consistent district-wide policy for facilities usage during all sporting events. That again came through several instances at different facilities during sporting events where things got out of hand, or at different high school buildings where students weren't allowed to enter. So a lot of ideas came out, or a discussion regarding maybe the use of student IDs, but that's going to take further fleshing out. Then it was a presentation of all the grants that the district are applying to or have applied to regarding physical and mental health. And then there was a presentation on school resource officers, their duties and roles in school, outside of school, and what they are doing to have an actual partnership within our buildings. And the next meeting, I have to double check with all the upcoming superintendent search meetings and see if it can be coordinated before the next regular meeting.
Thank you. Are there any referrals to this committee? Hearing none. The next one is the next one is personnel and contracts. Personnel and contracts has not met in the interim. We will meet on next week, which is May 30th at 6 p.m. at Central High School. Are there any referrals for this committee? All right, the next one is students and families.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Next student family will be May 20, 2023. That's a Thursday. I said the last time it's going to be Waterville School, but now because that day, Ms. Ortiz have an event, and so it's going to be in Central High School at 6 o'clock.
Any referrals to this committee? All right, last one is teaching and learning.
Teaching and learning has not met in interim. Again, I have to look at the schedule to figure out what day is going to work to actually hold it. I think it conflicts with graduation, but I'll have to double check.
Any referrals to this committee? All right. Now we'll move on to the superintendent's report. Ms. Perrin.
Good evening. First thing on the tonight's report was the BASIC and BMA update. Today there was the work group stakeholder meeting that was held this afternoon. This was the first one with Dr. Baldwin and various stakeholders. Out of that meeting, there was some conversation in regards to whether there's going to be an academy model versus a school within a school. So that started the discussions. They also talked about a visit to the Danbury Junior ROTC program that Dr. Baldwin and both Dr. Rayola and Ms. Soares attended just to get some ideas in regards to pathways and to be able to create some ideas around what that may look like moving into this new building. And they also talked about school climate, culture, and review of school construction plans. The next meeting is planned to be on June 14th at BASIC High School at 12 p.m. There was a meeting at the adult education site at St. Michael's on May 18th on Kossuth Street to discuss the relocation of the new site and new facility. As it stands, we will remain at Kossuth Street site through October 31st, 2023, and then relocate to a new site beginning in November of 2023. More information will be shared regarding the new site once confirmed. For nursing, scoliosis screening is still going on for grades 5, 7, and 8. For assessments, our grade 7 and 8 students will be taking their DIBELS assessment that will be happening through the end of this week, as well as grades 2 to 8, their HMH assessment for math. Grade 7 and 8 will engage in the Reading Plus survey, which will be taking place May 30th through June 2nd. The student school climate survey is scheduled for June 5th through 9th for grades 3 to 8. Currently, in regards to assessments for our next generation science, we are at 93% completion and SBAC at 96% completion. So we're still working on doing makeups for those as well. Next, I'm gonna have a list of non-funded grant agreements. These are moving forward for school year 23-24. So Council of Churches will offer mentoring and short-term support to students in need of counseling. This includes assistance for youth facing issues with family, school, or the juvenile justice system. Council of Churches will provide individual and family needs assessment, workshops, intangible assistance, and mentoring. Assistance to school personnel is also available, and this is a district-wide initiative. UConn College and Careers advisors work with guidance counselors and high school students to provide assistance for all things college-related. College advisors provide needed supports to students as they explore their post-secondary options and begin the college application process. That will be moving forward with Bassick and Harding. Elevate Bridgeport will support Bridgeport Public School students through 4 program areas: 1, non-accredited classes, 2, mentoring, 3, adventure, and 4, college and career. The Elevate curriculum focuses on leadership development, character education, life skills, and service learning, and that is at Bassick. The University of Bridgeport / Goodwin student teaching agreement between Western Governors University and Bridgeport Public Schools shall provide course offerings to Bridgeport Public School District's approved high school students in a 3 or 4 credit dual enrollment course program for 22-23 school year, and that is across the district. The Western Governors University, through this collaborative effort, will provide Bridgeport Public School employees flexible, personalized learning pathways to higher education, bachelor's and master's degree certifications, and micro-credentials through WGU's innovative online university and applicable WGU affiliates. Together, we seek to provide a streamlined approach and expand access to higher education. WGU is pleased to provide continuing education options to BPS employees and staff in support of employee development goals, and that is district-wide as well. Southern Connecticut State University student teaching agreement between Southern Connecticut State University and Bridgeport Public Schools is in effect for next year. The UConn teacher residency student teaching agreement between UConn and BPS Public Schools for next year as well. Read Squad is a program that connects a mentee in grades 1 to 3 with a mentor in grades 7 to 12 to meet weekly with the goal of bringing students reading below grade level to meet benchmarks. And this will be taking place at Dunbar, Discovery, Waltersville, and High Horizons. Build On. Through service, Build On students improve their academic engagement, empowerment, sense of possibilities, and personal and social development. The purpose of this is to offer 400 BPS students the opportunity to participate in Build On service learning programs. Additionally, 4 Build On SLP staff members will work with educators and administrators from BPS to ensure youth are connected to services happening at BMA, Harding, and Fairchild Wheeler campus. BPFE offers the mentoring for academic achievement and college career success. It's called the MAX program to all Bridgeport High School students. Students are partnered with the mentor and provided support services as they navigate high school and post-secondary opportunities. That's at high schools across the district. Today's students, tomorrow's teachers will implement the Circle Teacher Preparation Training Model. TSTT will provide program services, personnel, and material necessary to assist the district in establishing and delivering the program. TSTT will conduct weekly counseling, mentoring, and training sessions, forums, and workshops, and provide materials, food, and facilities for such training activities and events. Additionally, teacher mentors will provide stipends as well as student stipends when applicable at Central High School. Child and Family Guidance Center. Child and Family Guidance Center will work with Bridgeport's pregnant and parenting teens by offering them wraparound services and home visits for parenting education and support. That is district-wide. Big Brothers and Big Sisters Connecticut will partner with Bridgeport Public Schools to promote academic and social success through the mentor relationship and providing ongoing support, mentor-mentee. Our program cultivates social, emotional, and academic growth, and that is district-wide as well. Some other pieces that were not on my report that I need to add. I just wanted to share, I know I shared last month about bright spots in the district as far as attendance is concerned. Right now, that was through March of 2023. Right now for April, through April of 2023, Bridgeport holds its chronic absenteeism at 30%, which is still lower than its DERGs of Hartford, Britain, New Haven, and New Haven and Waterbury. So Hartford, New Britain, and New Haven are at 38%, Waterbury at 33%. The state of Connecticut is 22% as a whole. Upcoming events. The Technology Showcase took place today on May 22nd at Fairchild Wheeler campus. We have our citywide spelling bee coming up on May 24th at High Horizons from 6 to 9 p.m. Our quarterly recognition ceremony taking place on May 31st, 2023 at Harding at 6 p.m. A math meet for our grade 7 and 8 students will be held on June 1st from 9 to 1 p.m. at Sacred Hearts West Campus Auditorium. Our PAC PTSO roundtable taking place on June 7th, 6 p.m. at Columbus School. We'll be hosting a job fair on June 3rd from 11 to 3 p.m. at Central High School. And of course, our high school graduation day, June 12th, 2023. We also will be hosting a mathematics summer enrichment program for grades 5 and 6. The STEM Explorations for Young Minds is a program where students explore science and math concepts while building simple machines propelled by air and solar energy. Students will learn concepts associated with propulsion and math tools to gather, record, and study outcomes obtained from hands-on activities. Students will also work in small teams to design more efficient vehicles using common household items. Throughout the program, activities will build students' knowledge leading to the construction of a solar-powered vehicle. This program is available to students who have just completed grades 5 and 6. It will be held July 5th through July 21st from 8:30 to 12:30 p.m. at Bataya, Tisdale, and Waltersville schools. Applications will be distributed to all schools. Congratulations to Ms. Micaiah Stovall, a grade 3 teacher at Reed School who happens to be in the audience tonight, who received the John McCormick Award for Teaching Excellence, the Connecticut Education Association's highest award. Congratulations, Ms. Stovall. You're welcome. Congratulations to Fairchild Wheeler's Aerospace's Zachary Allen, who was selected from tens of thousands of students entered in the annual MathCon. He was selected as a finalist and competed on Saturday, May 6th, with the other top 1% of those entered in Chicago. Zach finished 4th nationally for all juniors. Nice job, Zachary. And then lastly, I just want to say congratulations to our Law Day debate winners from Fairchild Wheeler, Margaret Carlson and Thomas Donnelly, Park City Prep, Anika Fazal, I believe, and Miana Singleton. And then runners up from Central Magnet, Latanya Ferguson and Clementine Nato, and Blackham Aya Hakal and Amari Davis.
Thank you, Ms. Perrin. I'll open up the floor for board members to ask questions or comments for Ms. Perrin's report. I'll start to the left of me, Mr. Benahan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a question for you. Not question, concern and a comment, Ms. Perrin. I know we have a meeting today with Ms. Boughton, about Bassett High School and BMA, and we have a good meeting. We talk a lot of things, especially, I'm giving a lot of questions, a lot of comments. But it was good, but that's a lot of concerns that, as I told to Ms. Baldwin, I was sending her the question and comment because coming from parents, staff, and students, about the situation about put two schools together, what's going to be the concerns. So, like I said, and I'm going to say for the record, I'm going to keep saying that, I'm not agreed to have two schools together. but I know we can have much thing better to have to school separate, but we can give more, let's say, give it a BMA. I know Bassett High School, we're gonna have a lot of programs. It's gonna be amazing, and I'm very happy for that. Our kids deserve that. But I'm concerned about BMA, trying to help them and giving more staff, more, more program and stuff like that. I know it's gonna be a process, like I told me Dr. Baldwin today in the committee, because this is the beginning. It's almost for 2 years we're gonna talk about this. There's a lot of things, good things coming, negatives coming, It's a lot back and forth. It's gonna be a big process, but I just want to let them know for the record, we started this meeting and I'm concerned about my staff and the students and parents. So just wanted to say that for the record. Thank you. No more comment, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Sepulveda?
No comments or questions today.
Ms. Baptiste Perez?
I have a question. Who attended, which stakeholder group was the meeting with?
So there was a group, Dr. Baldwin was there as well. There was invitation, I believe, to Mr. Benahan, who attended for a board member, and then there were several different individuals who were invited from community groups. So the individuals who signed up at the forum. So there was one invited from each of those that were listed on the sign-up sheet.
We didn't have any of the state reps or the mayor available to attend since they were there for the groundbreaking. Did they attend the forum?
So this wasn't the forum, this was.
The stakeholder group?
So no, they didn't attend the stakeholder group that I'm aware of. Dr. Baldwin?
Were questions asked during the groundbreaking, since we had the opportunity with the mayor being there for follow-up discussions regarding the resilience project and all that?
No.
Then I just have a question for most of the district-wide initiatives. Well, how is it marketed? Like, is it at the beginning of the school year? Is it consistent blasts? For example, like the Council of Churches, just so that way families know they have access to all these programs are in the schools. I feel like some of them know, especially the high school programs, but for like the rest of the buildings, just to know that this is like a consistent resource that's available. That's the question.
So what I'm asking that the principals do is that they're communicating with their monthly communications that they send out. So whether it's through a newsletter, whether it's something that's posted on their website, so people are aware. A lot of these things here have to do with, of course, the social emotional pieces. So a lot of that comes through the social work and the guidance counselors as well.
Got it. Then I had a question regarding the University of Bridgeport Goodwin. It's going to be free credits for our students?
There's no payment associated. These are all non-funded, so there's no monetary agreements for our students for those. They don't have to pay anything.
Okay. This may be silly, but is it transferable? So if a student takes the credits at UB, but then decides to go to Sacred Heart, will they be able to transfer those credits? Or it may depend on the institution?
It may depend on the institution. So I can't say that in total truth that it would be. I don't know.
Okay. And then for Western Governors University, is that we'll provide BPS employees flexible. It's flexible, but will BPS employees get like a discount, a sliding scale? Will certain courses be free?
So this specifically with this, they're looking at providing a discount for it. So most of the grants that we've gone into in regards to getting access to additional credentials, they're either at a discount or some type of sliding scale.
And is this exclusively for Bridgeport Public School employees?
This one is, yes.
Nice. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Traber, then Mr. Macaron, sorry.
On the adult ed, it's extended now to October 31st. Can you, last time we met, we were looking at July 1st.
Right, so this, we will.
$1,000 a day. after July 1st. So
Correct. So what we were working on doing is trying to create a short-term lease. So we had an idea of where the students would be able to go to. So the church did agree to doing a short-term lease with BPS to extend beyond that June 30th deadline to October 31st, which it would give us another 4 months in the same location for the constituents while we engage in the process of still finding another location that is ADA compliant and so forth. So that they have agreed to that in the interim.
Mr. Macaron.
I have no questions. Thank you.
All right, that is, I have, okay, Mr. Benahan.
Madam Chair, thank you. I just want to go up what Mr. Barber said about adult education. And I was there in that meeting. We went to the meeting. We have a meeting that's full of, you already see, I posted. I was more concerned about the parents, to let you know that where, how, when, communication. Let's put it this way. It was lack of communication. Now they know, they understand. Of course, the program is not going to close. It's the building. So now that's why they extended to October so they can have plays. Parents, they know what they do. The plan. Remember, they got kids. It have a process. Not one day to other, you want to be just like that. So that's why, to let you know, at least the parent, they understand they're all coming down now.
Yes.
yeah, no, I understood that and I understand that. Mr. Benahan, it's good that they've done that. I agree with you. It gives a smoother transition. We allow for the communication to be improved. I just didn't know how it changed from the last meeting where we were going to pay $1,000 a day after July 1st. So I assumed it was some sort of agreement we'd reached, but it wasn't in the report.
Thank you. All
I
right.
have a question.
Yes.
To follow up on
Ms.
it.
Brass.
Will the contents of the 4-month lease extension be at least revealed to the board so we can look at? Because part of it too was that, from what I can recall, we were responsible for repairs to the building and the original lease. And so I'm just curious to see what we came up for the 4-month extension and what we're going to be responsible for there and the costs.
So the cost would basically, I will share that with the board, but the cost will remain the same for the rental agreement, which was, I believe it was about $10,389, I want to say, per month. There has been a cap on the number of repairs that they can ask for us with a max of $5,000 per month. And we make the determination in conjunction with facilities, whether this is something that needs to be done at the time to be able to function appropriately. So those are some big ticket items, but I will share the lease. You're welcome.
All right. If there are no further questions for Ms. Perrin, we'll move on to old business. The first item is discussion and second read, replacing in its entirety policy 9171, remote board member participation in person and committee meeting. This document, sorry guys, is in your meeting minutes. We lost a quorum, so we have to wait until those that have stepped out the room can come back. So just give us a second. All right, quorum is back. Where was I? We are back at old business, discussion and second read replacing in its entirety policy 9171 remote board member participation in person in committee meetings. This is your item, Mr. Sokolovic, so if you want to get started.
Yes, I'd like to start off by, as I do always with these long things that have been read once before, I'd like to make a motion to waive the second read in its entirety and focus on the one change made before we move on to the next motion to approve.
Is there a second? Second by Mr. Traber. Are there any discussions, comments, or concerns? Is there any comments or concerns?
This is to waive the CAPE suggested language that we read through the last meeting.
We're just gonna, just waive it, just read the one change that was made and insert it on bullet 11, which did make it into.
Okay.
All right. There are no further questions. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none. Mr. Sokolovic.
Yes, and we'll move on to, I guess I'll read it first. Number 11 bullet was added as discussed at the last meeting. Under, wait, let me just go back to, sorry. 9321-2B.
C.
Is C?
C.
It is C, yes, thank you. And number 11 was added and is entirely new language added to the CAPE to tailor it to our board's needs and wants. And this reads as follows. The chairperson of the board or the chair of the committee may participate remotely in an in-person meeting, but when doing so may not function as the chair for the in-person meeting. In order for the chairperson of the board or the chair of the committee to participate remotely, she must designate another board member who will be physically present in the meeting room to act as chair of the meeting. With that, I will make a motion to approve. Motion to approve 9171 remote board meeting participation in person and committee meetings as presented in the second read.
Is there a second? Second by Mr. Traber. Is there any discussion?
I have a comment.
Ms. Baptiste Perez.
So if it's a committee and hypothetically Mrs. Sokolovic, Ms. Brown, and myself is on it, let's say Ms. Brown is the chair of that committee. She can only come in remotely, and Mr. Benahan happens to be in the meeting. She can assign Mr. Benahan over committee members to lead that meeting,
Correct.
although he's not on committee and doesn't have a
I believe it has to be, that might be, hold on one second, please. Yeah, we might need to. Yeah, and I think you've got a very good point there. Perhaps you can make a motion to amend the word board, because we do have a process for the board to somebody pick up, because it could just be the vice chair or the secretary or what have you. And if nobody's here, somebody else can be appointed. Just replace that word board for committee.
committee member.
Chairperson of the board, correct. Another committee member, correct. She must, correct, yes. So motion to amend by striking the word board in the 4th line and insert committee.
Second.
Second by Ms. Baptiste Perez. Any discussion? Mr. Traber.
Yeah,
Put your mic on.
it is on.
Oh, okay.
Wouldn't we be better off just saying member? Because if you change it to committee member, it's not, if you see the preceding sentence or the opening of the sentence is the chairperson of the board or the chair of the committee. We have two different roles. And so we're trying to cover that either with member or we have to repeat. member of the board or member of that committee and be more specific. And me, I'm recommending just delete board and make it member.
Mr. Zucolovic.
Yeah, there's a slight problem with that because on the committee, only committee members have powers to vote and such like that.
And they're not members. That's my point. They're not a committee member.
Right, so they can't run the meeting, so it has to, so it should be explicitly stated. I believe that's a better option.
Can I withdraw my second and I'll change the language?
Sure, what do you want to change?
Just make two separate sentences. In order for the chair of a committee to participate remotely, he or she must designate another committee member who will be physically present in the meeting to act as chair of that committee meeting, period. In order for the chairperson of the board to participate remotely, designation shall fall in the order of command: vice chair, then secretary, and if neither are available, a member of the board who is physically present in the meeting shall act as chair of the regular board meeting. Then that way it hits the committee issue and it clarifies that we already have a chain of command with who leads the meeting if the chair is not physically present. But if in this particular situation, let's say Ms. Brown is not here and I'm sticking out and Mr. Benahan is sticking out, but there's still quorum for a meeting and Ms. Brown is online, then she can designate a regular board member to run the regular meeting because we all have access to that material.
Makes sense. You withdraw your second. I've got to withdraw my first. Got to withdraw the motion myself. I withdraw my motion. Could you please make that in form of a motion so we can approve it, please?
Motion to amend policy 9321.2C 11 of full sentence number 2 to state, in order for the chairperson of a committee to participate remotely, he or she must designate another committee member who will be physically present in the meeting room to act as chair of the committee meeting, period. And add another sentence, in order for the chairperson of the Board of Education, or for the board, sorry, let me read that again. In order for the chairperson of the board to participate remotely, first, designation will fall in the line of order of vice chair, and if vice chair is not available, then secretary. If vice chair and secretary are not available, then the chair shall appoint a board member who will be physically present in the meeting room to act as chair of the meeting, the regular meeting.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, we're voting on the amendment. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none. Now we vote on the main motion as is, as stated, as amended by Ms. Baptiste Perez. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, motion carries. I believe Ms. Perrin was writing it down and everyone else. All right, so the next item is, we're moving to new business. And for the new business item is review and discussion of score sheets for the superintendent evaluation of interim superintendent Alicia N. Perrin. Before we go all the way into it, I would just like to state that board members were asked to send in their evaluations. I have not completed the score sheets only because I have not received all of them. What we can do, and it's up to the board, is we can discuss them, and then once I have received them all, I can tally it up and present it back to the board. It's up to the board. And not everyone participated. There are 3 members who chose not to participate due to them not having prior work experience with Ms. Perrin. So it left on a few board members who did. So that's about 5 people that were able to participate. All right, so I will open up the floor for discussion. Anyone would like to start? For those that have completed the score sheets. Mr. Sokolovich.
May I ask a question of
Yes.
Superintendent first? Are you comfortable with so few board members having filled out the score sheets, having this discussion at this point in time, or would you rather wait for everybody to do their due diligence and responsibilities before you hear from them?
There's only one.
I prefer it if it was a holistic discussion and sharing, but I will defer to you all.
Well, in that case, I'd like to make a motion to postpone this item until all score sheets are in and completed and tabulated.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Benahan. Any questions, comments, concerns?
I have a comment.
Yes, Ms. Baptiste Perez.
As a board, do we realistically think everyone's going to complete their score sheets?
Do you want to repeat it again?
I don't realistically think everybody's going to complete their score sheets since everybody doesn't show up to meetings. And then I'm pretty sure what we have is the traditional quorum that how many are outstanding if 3 have deferred? And I'm going to make the bold assumption that it is 3 new members that have deferred.
Correct.
And how long has this been out? I mean, I was late with submitting mines, but I think it was by a day. So that's been a few weeks now.
Okay.
I guess my comment is I don't think it's realistic. You would probably have a holistic approach from active members of the board than to wait for inactive members of the board.
Mr. Sokolovich.
Yeah, I don't disagree with your sentiment, with the board members' sentiments. However, there's also another portion that needs to be completed, as Ms. Chairperson Brown has been waiting for these submissions to complete the tally and to formulate it into a report as a one report for the whole board to look at. And I think it's feasible at least to give Ms. Brown the opportunity with the scores that she does have to compile something as we've done in the past with our superintendent evaluations.
Ms. Baptiste Perez.
Yeah, no, that makes complete sense. I'm just very confident that it would be a holistic view. And so putting time aside to actually compile the data, I'm okay with postponing for. I'm not okay with postponing for absent board members in the hopes that they have been watching videos and can fairly assess Ms. Perrin's evaluation. I'm sure that the members that have submitted their evaluations have actively participated on the board.
Okay, so I'll amend my motion to reflect that and, maybe it's.
But you didn't, was your motion second?
Yeah.
Sorry, okay,
was,
that's
yeah.
what I'm sure.
So Mr. Benahan, could you withdraw your second, please? And because it'll make it cleaner.
Yes.
I'll withdraw my motion. I'll make a motion to postpone pending the compilation of the scores currently in possession of Ms. Chairperson Brown.
Is there a second?
Second.
Oh, there's
Oh.
someone. Blacko? What? Oh, let the record reflect Mr. Gellin has joined the meeting. Okay. Now, where it was, is there a second? Ms. Baptiste Perez? Any comments or concerns? Mr. Gellin, you have a comment? Mr. Macaron, you have a comment?
I do not.
No comment from me.
Okay. All right, Mr. Traber.
Yeah, I just have a question. I'm assuming from this discussion that we know who hasn't submitted
We do.
and how many have not been submitted.
So if we're counting the board members who chose not to participate because they're new to the board, another board member has also said he does not want to participate. And then we're missing Ms. Allen and Mr. Benahans. And that's it.
Okay.
All right. So it's, now we can vote on it. There's no further comments. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, it has been postponed. I will make sure that's on the next meeting. The next item is discussion and possible approval to issue solicitation for the annual food service bids for 2023-2024 school year. This item was requested by Mr. Steele. The information has just been submitted to our portals. However, we can discuss it if board members feel comfortable, but I do know that you all have asked for time to make sure that any items that is brought before the board has given you guys enough time to read them, and it's currently not in our, it's in our portal now, but was not in our portal during the week. So I would leave it up to the board to share your thoughts and concerns on this before moving forward.
We'll have, sorry.
Go ahead, Ms. Baptiste Perez.
We'll have enough time to solicit bids if we defer to the next meeting, correct?
Say it again.
We'll have enough time if we postpone this to the next meeting that it wouldn't have an impact on.
I'm gonna defer to Mr. Steele. What is the timeline on this?
My timeline is July 1st.
Okay, we do have a meeting in June, so it could be possibly tabled till then.
Thank you.
Mr. Sokolovic?
Yeah, is there any changes to the RFP from other than the standard language?
I'm sorry, please repeat.
Yeah, are there any changes to the RFP other than the standard language in run-of-the-mill food service that we get every year?
No, it's the same language as every year. We just update the food options that we're gonna offer for the next school year.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments concerning this potential postponement? I will just say that due to new board members being on the board and have not gone through this, I would support us postponing this because they are not new to this process. So that would just be my thoughts. All right. Would someone like to make a motion?
Motion to postpone.
Second by Mr. Traber.
I didn't finish reading.
Oh, sorry.
I was mid-chew, sorry.
Go ahead.
Motion to postpone discussion and possible approval to issue a solicitation of the annual food service bids for the 23-24 school year till next regular board meeting.
Mr. Traber, would you like to? Okay, second by Mr. Traber. Any discussion, further discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, motion carries. We'll make sure, Mr. Steele, that it's on the next agenda. The next item is discussion and possible approval for rewarding vision RFP going from VSP to IMED for our active staff members' benefits. This item is also inside of your portal. I'm not sure who will be presenting on this item.
Good evening, board members, Superintendent Perrin, and other leadership. This is Ulysses Rogers, Director of Payroll and Benefits for the Board of Ed. Since everyone's ready, do you mind me sharing my screen here?
Yes. Sam, he's all set.
Yeah, you are.
Is Mr. Ulysses, are you sharing it or is Sam? Okay, it's up there.
I'm sharing it here. Okay, here's my presentation on the City of Bridgeport and the Bridgeport Board of Ed Vision RFP plan presentation for today. A little bit about the background. The City of Bridgeport and the Board of Ed have gone through the RFP process for the vision coverage for active employees. We are required to go out to bid every 3 years. The bids were assessed based upon plan design and cost. There was also a component to allow for the employee to buy up for additional service at the employee cost. The Bridgeport Board of Ed has approximately 860 subscribers Total subscribers that are under the plan is just over 1,900. The plan does not cover teachers and administrators, which is our certified staff members. Here on the slide, this is our current 3-year cost claim and fee cost strictly for the BOE. Here on this slide are the bidders that were took part in the RFP process. We had Anthem, IMED, National Vision Administration, and our current incumbent, which is VSP. And IMED has been deemed a successful bidder based upon plan design and savings for this particular RFP. In choosing IMED, the city and the BOE will realize an approximate savings of $77,000 over a 3-year period. The BOE's approximate savings will be between $27,000 and $30,000 over the next 3-year period. Of course, the saving estimate does not account for any utilization impact. To the extent that the utilization changes, these numbers will possibly fluctuate up or down. And today with the city, with the BOE's approval, we can move forward with the city with the IMED plan that'll take effect on July 1st of 2023. And that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Ulysses, Mr. Rogers. I'll open it up for board members to share thoughts, comments, or concerns concerning this. I'll start. I'm gonna go down my list. I'm gonna start with Mr. Benahan.
Pass for now.
Okay, Mr. Sokolovic.
Yes. I don't recall seeing this at contracts. I don't recall seeing this in governance. This is not actually, it doesn't seem like an RFP. It seems like the city once again went ahead and signed a contract on behalf of the Board of Education without our input. Am I mistaken?
No, they're actually waiting based upon the figures that I'm presenting today. Nothing has been determined. We're waiting, and the city is waiting on your approval.
And how did we determine Board of Ed share versus the city share?
Well, over the estimated savings of the 77,000, based upon the utilization and the overall head count, like I mentioned earlier, there's 1,900, just over 1,900 non-certified staff members that are using the vision plan. 860 of them being BOE members. We're going to realize approximately $27,000 to $30,000 in savings over that 3-year period.
And how much is the city saving?
Approximately 47,000.
And how many employees in the city are benefiting from the eyeglasses?
This is probably from the 860 over, I say about 1,100.
And also do those percentages work out? Yeah. Well, I'm just reluctant to approve a contract because we should have been in the initial RFP process. This has happened before over and over again with Medicare, retiree savings, and everywhere we have a joint contract with the city, over and over again, the city shuts us out to the very last minute. And last time we didn't have time because we were under the gun. I mean, we need to be in the loop from the RFP process. I'd be more comfortable if this was before committee so we could have a thorough discussion to ensure everything's in proper. I mean, this is a regular board meeting. We've been here over an hour. First time we're seeing this once again, and it's unacceptable for the city to keep bringing stuff to us like this. And I'm not going to vote to approve this tonight. I want to see it at committee.
Any further board members? Oh, I'm sorry. Let me go back down my list. Ms. Baptiste Perez.
I echo the sentiments of Mr. Sokolovic to a certain extent. The big difference between this, well, it's not a huge difference, but one differentiating factor is that the city hasn't gone forward and executed the contract, and no representative on behalf of the Board of Ed has approved it. because that was the issue the last time with the retirees. I vividly remember that. But this is still also pretty late. It would have been good to have noticed that the RFP was being issued. How long, when was the RFP first issued, Mr. Ulysses?
It was issued probably in January.
Yeah, it would have been nice to know in January a RFP was being issued.
Mhm.
This is completely ancillary, but somewhat relevant. I was like, I like IMED as a provider. I had a feeling when I saw it, it was going to beat out the rest in terms of savings. That's just a personal opinion. I like my glasses, but I understand your sentiments. It would be good because I'm sure there's other RFPs that are coming up, because this wouldn't come up again in 3 years. And the board is subject to change. So it's hard to keep this one on my mind as coming up again during my term. However, that's just the minor difference between this and the last contract, is that the last contract was actually executed and this one hasn't, but we should have been notified by January, not May.
Thank you, Mr. Traber.
First question, Mr. Rogers, is it 3 years or 5 years?
It's 3 years.
One document says 3, one says 5.
But that was because we have the option to extend an additional 2 years, 1 year extensions for 2 years, but it's really a 3-year contract.
Okay, so when it says we're required to go out to bid every 3 years, it's really not every 3 years. It's every 3 to 5 years.
Well, the contracts are normally 3 years, but we
But you
can,
can do it extensions twice.
that is correct.
And who requires us to go out to bid every 3 years or 5 years?
Well, since we have joint, we shared benefits with the city. It's
I
part of
understand
this. It's part of the city's RFP process. They manage the RFP process on their end. And we
So
go
the-
over, myself,
The city regulations, rules, charter, what requires?
no, what happens is the RFP goes out stating that, okay, it's about to expire. Myself and the benefit team with the city will go over the RFP with our consultant provider, which is Siegel, which does the overall analysis of the claims data, the utilization, the fees that are associated, that's being charged to both the city and the BOE. What we do, once we receive the bids from the different service providers, we do a survey or scorecard based upon our cost, services provided, and what type of rebates or savings they can possibly provide to the city and BOE.
Okay, but I understand the process for an RFP.
Mhm.
What I asked was, what requires the bidding every 3 years? The city charter, the city regulations, some legal requirement?
I believe it's part of the city charter, but I would have to check with their benefit manager. I'm not sure.
And if I understand what you did just say in your explanation of how the process works, you were aware of this in January.
Yes,
So you didn't advise us of this in January.
that is correct.
So is it now clear that the board wishes to be advised of this kind of stuff?
Absolutely.
On a timely basis?
Absolutely.
And the 1,900 or so total subscribers in the 860 board, how many bargaining units is that?
It's approximately, I'd say 5 bargaining units. You have NAGE, ASME, BCSA, LIUNA, CALU, the nurses union, that are a part of that, that is all affected by this RFP. Like I mentioned earlier within the presentation, teachers and administrators, certified staff members are not eligible based upon their bargaining unit, are not eligible to receive vision benefits. So they're not affected by
They're
this.
not eligible, they're not eligible to receive this benefit. They have their own vision.
No,
They have their own benefits.
they have their own vision. They don't have a vision benefit
Right, they don't have a
to
separate one.
us.
Right. So I guess the last question that I would ask you is, I'm assuming all of those, this has all been run by those various bargaining units.
That's correct.
Okay. And they have voted to approve this?
The city is just waiting on our response for our approval. If we need to push it back, the city's prepared to push it back as well. But we're looking to possibly move forward as of July 1st.
All right, thank you, Mr. Gellan. Any
No
comments on this item?
No questions or comment. Just wish it was brought to our attention. Again, I wasn't here in January, but it seemed like we should have been brought to the board's attention just a bit earlier. Again, I just want to reiterate the sentiments of my colleagues. But I just hope moving forward, items such as these that require board approval that is brought to our attention a bit earlier in order so we can deliberate and look at the key components to determine what's best. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Macaron.
I agree with Mr. Gellan as well as Mr. Traber that this should have been, we should have been notified of this earlier, but I will go along with whatever the board decides.
Thank you, Mr. Macaron. And I agree with all board members as well. This is not the first time that this has happened to us, and I just think it's unfair. When this item was brought to my attention, I did ask, would this be going through our specific committee to make sure? So, in the future, if there's any contracts at all, RFPs need to come through committee, so the board has appropriate time to review those items before presenting on them. So I'm hoping that that process will fall in line with any and all committees involving RFPs, contracts, MOUs, and everything else. Nope, I have to give it to Ms. Baptiste Perez, and then I'll come back to you. She had her hand up. Go ahead.
How much would it cost if we had extended VSP for the next school year or for the next year, because it does include the city of Bridgeport versus IMED? I understand the overall cost savings, but what does that savings look like on an annual basis?
You want to know what the cost would be for IMED or what the savings would be on an annual basis?
So I want to know what the cost for IMED would be for if it was past year one versus extending the contract with VSP, because we've only had VSP for 3 years, correct? And the choice was not to extend out the contract.
Based upon the overall cost that VSP was trying to charge us, the overall cost for the next 3-year projection for VSP would come out to $377,000. For IMED, it would come to $300,000, and that's a total for both the city and BOE cost for the next 3-year period.
Thank you.
Mr. Sokolovic?
Yes, who scored these, who scored these proposals?
Myself and the city benefits manager.
Usually we have quite a few more. Usually got like 4 or 5 people scoring things, if I'm not mistaken. Only 2. Yeah, I still have a severe issue with this. And seeing as he did say there's some time to push it back, and we do have one more contracts committee coming up and one more board meeting coming up this year, that we this time, since we're not under the gun and holding people's medical benefits hostage, like last time people would have lost benefits, they would have lost out on money. This time, that's not the case. Until we do it properly and we put basically the city under the gun, they're going to keep doing this over and over again. So I would like to make a motion to commit this to the next contracts committee for a thorough vetting by the board. Since we are partners with the city on this, we got to act as true partners and have 50-50 in what we say on our contracts with the city, our joint contracts with the city.
Second by Mr. Benahan. Any further discussion? Ms. Baptiste Perez.
But it's already been presented to the full board. How about any questions, whether we want to vet out, we can submit that to Mr. Ulysses and then just bring it back at the regular meeting. Because if we wait for contracts, that's the one that doesn't have there were a few committee meetings, including mine, that don't have a definite date with our superintendent search. And you have a definite date?
It's on the 30th.
It's on the 30th?
Mm-hmm. So it'll be in time.
It'll be in time. Okay, well then that's fine. I wasn't sure because I know I heard a few times because of the upcoming searches. Well then, no, that works.
All right, Mr. Traber?
Yeah, and I would ask Mr. Rogers to be at that committee meeting, please.
Mr. Rogers?
Absolutely.
All right. If there are no further questions, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, it'll be added to contracts. The last agenda item is discussion and possible action on RFP to engage in lobbying service on behalf of Board of Education. This item came out of Mr. Sokolovich's committee, and I see Mr. Pires is online as well.
I'm here. So good evening, everyone.
Hi, Mr. Pires.
So this
So
item,
you have the floor.
this item came out of the Finance Committee, and it's been referred to you for approval. It's been discussed and vetted out, but in a nutshell, this is the Bridgeport Board of Education is seeking proposals from qualified lobbying consultants experienced in serving public school districts who can provide lobbying services for the Bridgeport Board of Education. Lobbying services would encompass, but not be limited to rendering advice and representation on the following: maintaining relationships and develop alliances with the elected officials, community leaders, and other relevant stakeholders, researching and examining legislation and regulatory proposals, growing and executing lobbying strategies for the Bridgeport Board of Education, attending legislative sessions and committee meetings at the state and local levels, communicating Bridgeport Board of Education's goals and objectives with community and governmental agencies, and educating government officials and Bridgeport Board of Education members on lobbying strategies. So this, in a nutshell, is basically what the goals and objectives would be for the lobbying consultant. Any questions, concern?
Thank you, Mr. Pires. We'll go around the board. I'll start this side, give you guys some time. Mr. Traber,
No questions.
Ms. Baptiste Perez.
I'm mixed on this. I see the need for it to a certain extent because there is a disconnect with communications with our representatives up at Hartford in the Board of Education. A part of me feels that we, for the most part, as elected officials and who have been designated this seat as board members, we do have part and obligation to sit down and actually, I'm not saying I'm the best at this, but actually extend and have communications with the Bridgeport delegation to know what's going on with the Bridgeport delegation and what's happening in Hartford. Because I heard the sentiments of like, well, the city has this and it's there, but then we don't have the communication. I guess my hesitancy is that part of it as politicians, because either we've been elected to this role or designated to this role. And this is a bit of a self-critique as how much have we done to actually bridge those communications before taking this step. And so that's my primary concern with this is just a personal reflection of actually sitting down. I know Ms. Perrin had the meeting with the reps not too long ago, but everyone didn't show up. I couldn't make it to that meeting, but it was live. But still, making those communications, and it's not only just us as a board reaching out, but to the delegation also not reaching out to us. So I do see part of the need, but as all elected officials, we all should probably do better to actually have those communications. It would be good if the state reps, before knowing that they're going to support something on the education committee, reach out to at least the board chair or see to have a sit down with as many members as possible, or even a state senator reach out to us with funding that's going to come out. It is a community effort. We're all elected by the people of Bridgeport. And, you know, this does come down as a cost for communications. And so it's almost like, how much is it his actual personal ego? Not saying it's us, but that's just my only hesitancy and reservation with this is, as a city, we should be doing better. But then I understand that to a certain extent, as a board member, the board has been ignored.
I guess, am I going around,
Yeah, I would just like to.
Go ahead, Mr. Sokolovich.
Oh, I guess I'm next anyway. Yeah, I'd like to respond to that. That was actually discussed as a good point, that we do need better communications. That was in fact discussed, that was discussed at the committee level with Ms. Constance Victors and all that. They suggested those are some reasons why we don't need it, but the two don't need to be mutually exclusive. I reached out to our national group, Great City Schools, and almost nearly every city has their own lobbyists, for the simple fact that sometimes there are conflicts of interest between the city needs and the education needs. Sometimes they're not in place. Like we have our own lawyer. We sometimes utilize the city lawyer where our interests are aligned and interest is saving money. The same could be done with the lobbyist. The city has a lobbyist. The lobbyist says what they do for the city is they talk to the city council and they talk to the reps and advocate for them. But when it came down to us, we didn't need them to speak for us, because I gave them examples. If perhaps we wanted to put a minimum contribution increase required on localities and have a law pass, and if the mayor tells you you cannot lobby for that, what would you do? I would listen to the mayor, because the mayor pays my bills, both the lobbying firm and the legislative analysis for the city of Bridgeport. So if there's any conflict in something that we want versus what they want, they're going to follow what the mayor says, that we will not have a voice up in Hartford at all. Even if our delegation doesn't agree with it, if they get pressure from the mayor, we can't reach out to the other delegates, but a lobbyist has that ability to do so. And made it clear that even though if we consider proceeding with the lobbyists, we expect to be able to communicate with the city lobbyists and with our city delegation and our state delegation, regardless of us having our own lobbyist.
Thank you. Mr. Benahan, any comments? Mr. Macaron, any comments?
No, I agree with Mrs. Sokolovich.
Okay. Mr. Gellin, any comments?
This is certainly a tricky one in my opinion. I think, I think we certainly can walk and chew gum at the same time, but I think we should look at fortifying and cultivating relationships with our delegation, and to see how we land there. That's my personal opinion. I would hate to, put a fork in a relationship by, kind of doing any other actions. I think we should try to build bridges first and reach out to see if anything, any communication. I'm not sure if we can have them, come to the some of our board meetings to share updates with us. It may not be realistic, but I'm looking to just how do we as a board, fortify in our cultivate the relationship with our delegation. That's my opinion.
Thank you. Let the record reflect, Ms. Cashmere has joined us. Ms. Cashmere, I'm not sure what part of the conversation you were able to grab, but would you like to have any comments concerning this?
No comments. Thank you.
All right. Before I go to Mr. Traber, I'm going to share my thoughts. Just speaking, and Ms. Perrin can also lend her thoughts as well. I do hear both sides, what Ms. Baptiste Perez is saying and also what Mr. Sokolovic is saying. Just sitting in this particular seat, I've experienced items get brought before in Hartford, before the Board of Ed has had any knowledge of it. And to me, I felt in this seat to be able to provide the information back to the board, felt out of the loop, not knowing what's going on. And I can't even tell my board members what state representatives are allocating or supporting. So although I hear both sides of it, I do think it is important that communication has been said, but just hearing from the meeting that night, it really made me think like, okay, well, there could be an opportunity where we don't align in vision, and where would that support lie for the Board of Ed? And whereas our state delegation has a duty to not just reflect just Bridgeport, they have other areas, we as board members are elected to just Bridgeport. So who advocates for Bridgeport when they have to advocate for other areas? And no disrespect to any other city that they may be responsible for, our one job is our students in Bridgeport Public Schools. So while we're still trying to understand how this will play out, potentially could be costly or whatever the case may be, I'm looking at it, well, when there isn't a voice in Hartford for us, who speaks for us? Because we obviously can't go up there doing that, maybe in our own time without the title of board member, but at the end of the day, who speaks for us? And if they're not doing it, somebody needs to be doing it. That's just my thoughts. And Ms. Perrin and I have been in 2 meetings where we've brought conversation. They've been invited, state delegation, city leaders have been invited. Then there was another meeting that we participated in where we thought we were trying to see what the plan was that they were going to do as far as keeping us in the loop, and it did not go that way. So it's just a matter of communication, as you has mentioned, and building of relationships. So I do hope whatever the outcome comes from the board, that whatever relationships need to be made or built in the meantime can be built. And just hearing from the firm and hearing from the rep from, Ms. Constance, Ms. Vickers, I hope that communication can continue with or without whatever way the board decides to go, because it's definitely needed. And I just think it put the district in an awkward position that day for that specific testimony. But what happens later on, or, what happens, what do we do next, has been a concern and constant thought of mine. So that was just my thoughts. I'll turn it over to Ms. Perrin if you have any thoughts on it, and then I'll bring it back to Mr. Traber.
So when I think about the experience of engaging with delegation, I think it is important that we have a voice that represents the Bridgeport Board of Education because of conflicts. Ms. Brown referred to a meeting that we engaged in with some members of the delegation in an attempt to be able to have open communications and conversations, which that was not the outcome. It was just, you all are wrong, basically. And that's made it very, very difficult to be able to even engage in a productive conversation, because there's always other perspectives that need to be considered when we're making decisions. So though I know that there may be a cost, a great cost that may be associated with it, I think it's important because the only thing that we have is our voice. And for the constituents that we're working to be able to represent, we need to be able to do that. We need to be able to have a unified voice around that, even if it's a voice that is not in agreement with something that is being represented by the city. The relationship piece is extremely important. I think that we should definitely engage in conversations and, chats in meetings with the delegation so we fully understand where they're coming from. But I also think that it's equally important for them to hear from us and understand us as well. So I think that it would be a benefit for us to be able to engage in the process.
Mr. Traber, and then Ms. Baptiste Perez.
I participated at the committee meeting in this discussion, but I want to add some thoughts to this now that it's expanded here. I'm all for meeting with the reps. I have met with both state senators, my state rep, and Representative Felipe, who is one of the Education Committee members who is pushing 5003. You know, I think that we should continue to try and meet with them. And as Ms. Vickers pointed out in the committee meeting, had she been involved, she says that she would have started meeting with us last fall or summer, and offered to do so this summer or fall. And I think we should take her up on that regardless of this RFP. This RFP strengthens our hand with regard to keeping their attention. They seem to be very attentive now that we are talking about getting our own lobbyist. So at the very least, I don't think there's any cost to putting out the RFP, which is the motion we're dealing with tonight, is there? Okay, so I would say go ahead, because at the very least, we've gotten their attention. But I think that in the long run, we want to have our own lobbyist for the reasons that have been articulated by others tonight. It's a question of we are elected to represent the students of the Bridgeport Public Schools. They have other interests. We don't. And so their interest clearly is shown in this current legislative session, because 5003 would give 3 times more money to a charter school student than a public school student. And there's been no explanation for why that's the case. The number was 7 times at one point. It was down to 4 or 5 times. Now it's down to 3 times, but it's still $2,200 per charter school student and $750 per public school student. So to me, without an explanation, there's something wrong here, and there's clearly different interests. Since if you were giving us all the same amount of money, it'd be one thing, but you're not. And this strikes me as being a parallel to what we just talked about with regard to the eye insurance. The city talks to us when they feel like it. And so we want to make sure that we get, we are in a best position to do our job of representing the children of the Bridgeport Public Schools. So I think that, I think this is important to go forward with. I would, when we get there, argue that it's important to have our own person keeping an eye on things in Hartford. As I understand it, we didn't find out about what was going on in this legislative session until a month or more into the session. So I think we just necessarily need to back up and make sure that we're on board at the right time when it matters. And then let's sit down and talk with them in a respectful way.
Ms. Baptiste Perez.
Oh, to clarify, and I'll be quite frank, for prior sessions, no communication came from us. It might actually be a really good idea to have a lobbyist. I've learned from outside organizations of potential legislature, never anything from the Board of Education or anyone from the city on behalf of the board. Part of it too is I don't want this to be a crutch where it's just what our lobbyist says and whoever the representative is. And it's just the state senators that represent outside districts, whether it's part of Monroe, Trumbull, and Stratford. It's state reps represent the city of Bridgeport. But that's neither here or there. And my only thing is I don't want it to be a crutch where we actually still need to have communications with what the needs are for the board, because we should be having conversation with the Bridgeport delegation, whether it's city or on the state level, when it comes to our needs. And I think this is more geared towards the state level. But yeah, no, forget this session. All previous sessions, I've never heard anything from the prior superintendent regarding this is happening in Hartford or anything like that. I've learned from all outside organizations. And it was those outside organizations that were organized, had their own lobbying, and was prepared and clearly debriefed me. And that's something we're missing.
All right, Mr. Sokolovich?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I definitely do agree that this definitely needs to be done. As far as Mr. Traber's numbers of the disparities between the charter schools and our schools and the increase in funding, charter schools got something that we don't have. Strong lobbyists. That's another. They got very strong lobbyists. They got a whole association just advocating specifically for them. And I think we need to put ourselves on an even playing field once and for all. All those conversations could have happened with our delegation. That's not negated. Every year since I've been on the board, we've had a couple of legislative breakfasts with our delegations to varying degrees. We've got some state senators who have never shown up at a single one. And we've got maybe one or two state reps showed up at every one. So there's a varying degree of success of who shows up at our breakfasts. And I believe this is definitely a need.
All right, I see Mr. Bennett, who hasn't spoken on this item.
Yes, I will be short. Exactly today I was talking with three city council people, and we were talking about this. And they were glad to have a meeting. They were glad to enjoy with us. They were glad to call all the state rep over there we have to have a meeting to discuss the situation, put everything clear, so we have a better communication, because they know we're here for our students and support our staff, and of course, Ms. Perrin too, as a superintendent. So it's very strange that I have a conversation with them today, this afternoon. So I will let you know with them, Ms. Brown. You can contact them, Ms. Perrin, so we can have a meeting and with them, and they can call them from Hartford. They will come because the city council, they will support us on that situation. Just want to say that for the record. Thank you.
Ms. Baptiste Perez.
They may be interested in this conversation because there's an election this year for city council. And so I don't think it's necessarily a genuine interest. The state reps and state senators have secured their spot. So maybe relying on them for publicity is not the best thing, and just to go forward with the lobbying organization, because it seems like it's more geared at a state level. The city of Bridgeport has spoken and has only given us an extra $500,000. Did they keep the Bridgeport promise? No. So why we didn't get $1 million? Anyway, neither here or there. Yeah, I don't see the point at this time speaking with the city. I mean, no, you know what? Let's work on communications, like I was saying, but let's not also be used as a political propaganda.
All right, Mr. Sokolovich.
Yeah, in that case, I would like, I would like to make a motion to approve putting out an RFP to engage lobbying service on behalf of the Bridgeport Board of Education.
Is there a second by Mr. Traber? Second by Mr. Traber. If y'all don't, any further discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion carries.
Oh, motion carries.
Motion to adjourn.
Good night, everybody.
Take care. Good night.
All in
In favor?
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Good night,
Bye-bye.
everybody.